Hello, good afternoon. This is Robert Bull speaking, and I hope you all can hear me well. If you can, please do me a favor and give me a little hint. Click on it somewhere, let me know, and that's just very important to me so I can figure out what's going on here. Okay, so anyway, so we're ready to start going. Here's my cover page, and basically today's topic is plan, ready, set, go. Planning right now is a very key issue. Everybody's sitting at home waiting to see what's going to happen. Okay, fine. Well, now we got to really go beyond waiting to see what's going to happen. Let's get it done. So let's have a look at what we're going to be talking about as today progresses. Plan for the future. We're going through what many people have been told is what is called a black swan period. Now, what is a black swan? Where's this black swan come from? What is it? Well, basically, the black swan theory is something that is totally unexpected, something that you just don't even know how it happened or why it happened or where it even comes from. It gets you totally by surprise. And the reason where that word comes from, because what's the color of a swan? Well, swans are all white. They've always been white. In Europe, all the swans in the rivers and the lakes are white. And suddenly, when people discovered Australia and they went to Australia, guess what? The Australian swan was black. And that's why it's called a black swan, because it's something totally unexpected, totally out of left field. Where did this even come from? Nobody understands. So we're in that period right now. This is a black swan. Nobody, from a financial perspective, from any perspective, nobody was planning this to happen. And if you look at the stock market, you look at the unemployment, you look at everything, this basically caught everybody out of left field. So what we need to do, we need to plan for the future. And we need to understand that we need to transition back to business as usual. So we must plan ahead. So what's going to come after this emergency, this crisis? Unfortunately, based on Goldman Sachs estimates, unemployment will probably be at least 15%. And some people are even talking as high as 20%. 1 out of 5 workers not employed. And GDP will decline by 34%. It could even be worse than that. You look at what's happening to our neighbors to the south, where they have no safety net. What is unemployment compensation in this country? Yeah, you get unemployed people will be able to survive somehow for a while because there is unemployment insurance. What is the unemployment insurance in Guatemala? Go steal from somebody who has something and you don't. Okay, so that's a bit of a problem. And I'm not criticizing them, it's just the infrastructure that exists. So what are current activities? What do we have to do? First of all, we have to keep safe. We have to keep healthy. We have to follow the rules. We did the distance, the social distancing, whatever the case may be. Wear gloves, wear a mask, whatever. We have to keep our business engagement with our customers. Somehow, we have to be reaching out to our customers, be it through social media, be it through telephone calls, be it through webinars, through Zoom, whatever the case may be. We need to look at our short-term solutions. How are we going to stay in business right now? And we have to start to think long-term, and that we have to start thinking now. Because this crisis, yes, we're going to have a lockdown for about a month, maybe more, we don't know. But we have to think what's going to happen in a year, 2 years from now. We have to update our communication channels. Everybody's using Zoom. Everybody's using different kinds of communication. Absolutely key. And when you look at what you're doing now to keep your business going, when we start again coming out of this crisis, we have to see which of our online activities do we want to keep. And when do we start to recall our staff? Do we bring them all back day one? What do? We have to figure that out. So right now, when we look out to the future, some people may see a rosy future coming out. And even President Mr. Trump is talking about a V-shaped recovery. They're going to go up right after coming down. They're going to get down, straight up. That's a little bit optimistic, I think. But right now we have to see, what is your backup plan? What happens, God forbid, if you get sick? I'm not talking about passing away. Just get sick. You can't go to work. What's going to happen? You can't do your work. It's important today you identify someone who's going to take care of business while you're out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is. And then we have to consider remote contact, Zoom meetings, teleconferencing, all these sort of things. Why do we have to shut down for short term? We just have to tell the employees to go home and close the business for now, just for the sign up. We're on an extended spring vacation, whatever you want to call it, or we're closed because of COVID-19. And why did the shutdown last weeks and months? Imagine they've canceled Wimbledon, which is late in July, and it's canceled. So basically in England, they're saying this will go on for a longer time. And the other question is your current temporary plan sustainable? How do you survive? How do you keep on going? Is it sustainable? We have to look at that. Now, the amazing thing about the word crisis, and here is this is written in Chinese, this is written in Japanese, very similar, except here at the end, okay? But in Chinese, the characters mean Hui Ji, which means danger. Okay, this first one is danger. And the next one means machine, possibility, chance, or risk. Those two combined mean a crisis. Funny, the word possibility and chance could be interpreted as a positive word. So be careful. With every crisis, there are risks. And I think one of Obama's dear friends, Rahm Emanuel, said, never let go of a crisis, the opportunities of a crisis, or something to that term. Crisis does offer possibilities and chance, but notice there's also risk, okay? So that's what our dear friend talked about there. So we must prepare now to jumpstart our jumpstart plan. What are we doing to jumpstart? And it's very important with the word strategy going forward, we have to have a vision. When we use the word vision, I don't mean is your eyesight 20/20. No. It really means where do you want to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years in the future? Where do you want to be? And there's a Roman philosopher, Seneca. His name is Seneca. He says, if you don't know the port where you're heading, there are no favorable winds because you don't know where you're going. You need to know what is your long-term plan. So that's why we have our little ship heading down to the sunset, and we're very confident that things are going to work out well in the long term. There's another American business management professor, and he says, there's no stronger force to propel an organization towards excellence and a long-lasting success than a vision of the future, gets the key there, that is attractive, valuable, achievable, and shared by all. What are we talking about there? We're talking about if we have a vision where we want to take our company, how do we let the people within our organization know what it is? And how is it attractive, valuable, achievable, and shared by them? Are they aligned with your goals? And that's just so key and so fundamental. Are they aligned with your goals? Because if they're not aligned with your goals, then we got a problem. Oh, I just noticed my friend Bunny came on. Hey, Bunny, how you doing? Hey, Bunny, just write in there yes in the question area if you can hear me well, okay? Just want to be double sure on that, all right? So as we go forward, these are the key things about our vision. Now, when we talk about strategic planning as we move forward, there's a whole strategic aptitude framework. What do we mean by that? Things are always changing. 6 months ago, I mean, here we are right now in the beginning of April Fool's Day, of all things, April 1st. 6 months ago, beginning of November. Nobody had any idea. There's no way of anticipating what's going to happen. So it's a continuous flow of anticipating. Right now, we can anticipate the future. Unfortunately, I just said what Goldman Sachs forecast is for the end of this quarter. 15% unemployment, 34% drop in GDP. And some people say that's even optimistic. So when we anticipate, we have to think critically. We have to make our decisions. What are we going to do? How do we engage our customers? How do we retain our customers? How do we continue to communicate with them? Because if we're out of mind, we're out of sight, we're just not there. How do we interpret the data? And then we have to decide what we're going to do. And when we make the decision, we have to be sure that our team is aligned. Everybody's in agreement. We're all going forward. And we bring our vision forward and our strategies forward. And then we have to learn, is it working? And then we have to anticipate again. And it goes around and around and around and around and around. So while strategic planning tends to be longer term, we have to understand we always need to be working on plan B. By plan B, I mean, if plan A says I plan to sell, just imagine, I don't know, $1 million a year. Okay, that's really cool. But what happens if it's not working out that way? What do we do then? How do we adjust ourselves to come up with a plan B? So when we talk about strategic planning, these are the components that are actually important in us having a plan. Number one, what's our vision? What do we see ourselves like in 3 to 5 years? Ourselves personally, our business, whatever we're dealing with. What is our vision going forward? What is our mission? Why do we even exist? What's our reason for being? What's the current situation? I call it today's reality. What's really going on today? If you were to do your plan for 2020, 2021, had you done it, let's say fourth quarter 2019, I think you'd have to be rewriting that plan right now because today's reality is totally different than that of September, October last year. What are our goals and objectives? What do we want to achieve in every single area in consumer engagement, sales, production, cash flow, profitability, different areas that we have to look at. What are alternative strategies? This black swan that we talked about a while ago, black swan is something that comes totally out of left field. And that's what's hitting everybody, every government, every environment. Nobody knows how that even happened, okay? And then we need to come up with our action plan. So let's talk about management based on value. For that, I'd always like to think about Kentucky Chicken. Mr. Colonel Sanders, who was never a colonel, but that doesn't matter. He had a really nice recipe, and it worked out very well for him, didn't it? And he had certain core values. Why? The mission. Why do I exist? What is my purpose? What did he want? He wanted to come up with the best fried chicken there was, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Now, God forbid you say that. Nobody says it. Now you say KFC, because nobody wants to use the word fried because of health connotations. He had a secret recipe. He was always hiring more and more people. And the mission, where do we want to go? What do we want to become? What do we future? See, what we do today is not necessarily what we visualize for the future. Okay, the future is 3 to 5 years from now. But we could be doing our business. And one of the concerns I always have when you talk to employees in different companies, say, well, what are you doing? Don't ask me, I just work here. Because they're not engaged. Okay? We need to get people who are engaged and involved with our business. Okay? So we have to look at the values. There's going to be certain economic values, which is the profitability and goals. There's going to be social value. Depends on the sort of company you have and the kind of culture that company has. We will be talking about culture, the culture you want to have in the environment you work in another seminar next week. But when you talk about the economic values, it's how much do we pay, what do we plan on earnings, what return on cash flow, and our social values has to do with really today what we're talking about. It could be the environment, it could be how we address other people, etc. And then we have to look at our operating value. There's certain external factors that we have no control over. The market, what's going to happen with the market? Well, today the market absolutely collapsed. And when I talk about the word environment, this is not the ecological environment. This is the political environment that's going on. We have a very contentious environment right now in the United States. People either love or they hate Trump. Very few people are in the middle. Okay? Does that impact things? Sure does. What are the processes? What do we anticipate our employees to do? What is the daily work process? We have to be very clear on what we identify that we want our employees to do. Whoever it is, doesn't matter if you have 3, 4 employees, if you've got 50, 60, or 200 employees. Everybody has to understand what is acceptable conduct where you work and what are the work processes. And then we have to look at our resources. our financial resources. When you look at what we're going to come out of, we're right now in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. But then we're going to come into a huge, huge, huge economic crisis. We're talking about world trade. What's going to happen with all of our neighbors to the south who currently come to Miami to buy tons of stuff, apartments, this, that, the other? Economically, those countries are in deep trouble, very deep trouble. Okay? What are our marketing resources? How do we manage them? Social media has allowed small businesses the ability to communicate, in some ways even more effectively than large businesses. Our last seminar on Monday, we talked about a company called Azúcar, which is an ice cream company in East. They're doing extremely well. They've opened up other places in different locations, and they're doing very, very well. So that's one of the issues we have to be looking towards and seeing how it works out going forward. Okay. Then I want to look at brand differentiation. What makes us unique? Okay, so let's talk about what are the values that we have relative to our vision, which is basically where do we want to go? What type of business do we want to become? Are we going to become an e-business? Are we going to become a brick and mortar business? Are we going to become a business that only deals with insurance? If it's the case, because I know we got somebody here who deals with insurance, is it only car insurance? Is it life insurance? Is it health insurance? Or is it all kinds of insurance? Or we're just going to have an agency? Who knows? Okay. What kind of leadership do we want in this sector? Do we want to be number one? I want to be number one. I want to be number one. Well, maybe. Do you remember Avis? They used to say, we tried harder. Why? Because they were number two. Okay, so that's the position. And what size company do we want? How big do we want? And what's our target market? Where do we want to do our efforts? Where do we want to look for our clients? How do we want to do this? In that case, we want to consider, do we want to be local, just in Coral Gables, just in Miami, just in South Dade, just in Dade County, or in the Southeast Florida, or in Florida, or national, or global? What do we want to do? What are we looking for? So the question really is, when you have a vision, is it a vision or is it a dream? Now, the difference between a vision and a dream is that basically a vision is long range, but it has to be attractive and achievable, realistic. The dream, sometimes dreams are just a little bit further away, okay? So when we look at our vision, which are the objectives we want to achieve? And nobody can predict the future. Nobody could have ever predicted this crazy coronavirus. But any decision we do today will impact our future. Imagine companies that had absolutely no social media. There's tons of them. Had no Facebook, no internet, no consumer data at all. Nothing. They don't even know who goes into their stores. One of our classes, I talked about these couple places down the street here in US 1. They sell silver and gold coins and who knows what else. They don't even know who buys. They just know people come in. They've been closed for weeks. How do they communicate with their customers? They can't. They don't even know who they are. That's a heck of a problem. And then having great ideas, a lot of people have great ideas, but they're kind of useless unless you put them in action. Okay? So whatever we want in the future, we have to clearly define it today. And today, with the new reality we're going to face when this crisis ends, we're going to be with that economic crisis. We know this country will go forward. This country has been through depressions, recessions, World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, goes on and on and on. Will we succeed? Yes. But will we have a V-shaped recovery like Mr. Trump is talking? I don't know. I don't know. So whatever vision we have to commit our resources. But let's talk about developing a mission, a vision. We have to look at today's reality. Where are we now? And most of our companies were either working remotely or we just simply shut down. You own a restaurant, you're delivering. If you own a retail store, like the guy that I talked about a moment ago, selling silver and gold coins, he's not selling anything. But is he doing marketing? I don't know. We have to say, okay, well, what are we going to do? We need to have a strategy for where we're going to go forward. Values, what's really important to us, and how do we communicate our values, not just to our employees, but to our clients. And what are the processes? How do we greet our clients? How do we address our clients? The other day we talked about the experience, the shopping experience, experiencing the product. What does that mean? When you go into a store, it's not I go to the store to buy. I go online to buy. It's the whole experience, the whole feeling when you end. I felt really great. They really value me. They tailor the products for me. That's a heck of a good process. Or they just want my money. It's done and over with, okay? So where are we heading? Which ultimately is, what is my vision? Where do I want to go? What is my mission? Why do I even exist? Okay, what is the goal of my company? What service am I providing? What is my uniqueness? What is my point of difference? Is there value to it? And where do I want to take this company? So when we talk about strategies, there's a gentleman called Porter, okay? This guy, #1 guy for strategic management in Harvard, and he talks the following. Without competition, there are no strategies. Hence, it's more correct to discuss about competitive strategy. How are we going to beat competition? So the key goal, the question is, the voyage and as well as the reach the goal, so it's both things, processes and actions, fundamental. And here are the questions we have to ask. What is my current situation? Not just me alone. Remember we did the SWOT analysis. I think we did it yesterday or the day before yesterday. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's relative to whom? To the competition. So what is my current situation? How am I stacking up? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to go? This is how big do I want to be? How much do I want to sell? How am I going to engage my clients? All these sort of questions. And ultimately, how am I going to get there? Which is, what is my plan? If you wish, we can say, where do I want to go as my objective? How am I going to get there as my strategy? So we have to talk about a competitive strategy. And here's the key elements. Number one, the market. Which is the territory I want to conquer? And I talk about this in a war perspective, as we did the other day. We talked about sales. It's a military strategy. What is the territory I want to conquer? The company, ourselves, us. What are my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, and my threats? Right now, the worst threat we have, unfortunately, is this bloody economy and this disease, and what happens afterwards and how we solve these problems. And the competition, the enemy. How do we defeat the enemy? And there are 5 forces that are going to affect my competitive position. Number one, my current competitors. Hello, my clients. Right now, if we're not engaging our clients today, let's just use an example of a restaurant. If we're not engaging them, do you really think 3 weeks from now we suddenly will open up, they're going to be standing on our door? Maybe. But remember, there are other restaurants or other places that are engaging them now. You want to keep them with you. Are there substitute products? What? I don't know, but how many people are using InstaSharp or Instacart, whatever it's called? They're using Amazon for their products. Nobody's going to stores. Wow, is there substitute products? You better believe it. Suppliers, can they impact me? Sure can. Speaking about suppliers, I don't know if you saw. I know in Brazil this is the case because there's no safety net there. Farmers are just not even harvesting, they're throwing the food away. They can't afford to take the food to market because there's nobody in the market. So they're not going to go through that expense. And guess what? In Florida, now strawberry harvest season, they're throwing it away. Why? Strawberries are not something that you go say, oh, I need a strawberry. No, you go into the supermarket, you see them, you pick them up. People aren't going. Not like they used to. People are running in, running out. They're having to throw plenty of their foods away. Okay? And new competitors, how do they come in? What is the cost of entry? How difficult is it to come in? If you own a restaurant, anybody could open a restaurant. Doesn't mean they'll be successful, but there's very few what they call barriers for entry, in which are new competitors coming in. I want to give you an example of a company called Western Union, okay? And many people think of Western Union as a way to go somewhere and you want to send money, okay? Especially people sending money to Latin America, wherever it is you do it. But in World War II, the Western Union man, when you see him bicycling down the street, everybody would be afraid because he's bringing a telegram to say that your son or your husband or your father has been wounded or captured or something like that. Everybody worked on telegrams. And I kept on going. And they shouldn't exist. And when the fax came about, there's a little fax machine, which they don't exist anymore either, to speak of. That was the end of Western Union. Who needed to send a telegram? Nobody. All of a sudden, they collapsed. But they didn't collapse. Why? Because somebody realized we have a method of sending words to a fax from point A to point B. You know what? We could send money. And guess what? Western Union today is considered a financial corporation, not a telegraph company. And most of you listening to this webinar have never even seen a telegram. So let's get into SWOT analysis. What's SWOT? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Many of you have studied it, heard about it, and you hate to think about it. But you know what? This is something very, very key. We do a little thing like this, a little chart, a little diagram, if you wish. Our internal things. This is what I can control. What I'm good at, what my strengths are, and I have to know what my weaknesses are as a company, as a person. Makes no difference. Externally, opportunities, I don't control that. That's external. And threats, well, guess what? COVID-19 definitely was an external factor. So we'll kind of set up something like that. And we got to fill this out. You can do it for yourself. You can do it for your brand. You can do it for your company. All of us have strengths and weaknesses. I do my own. I know what my strengths are. And I know what my weaknesses are. If you were to look around my office, you'd be very clear knowing what my weaknesses are. Number one weakness, I'm fully disorganized. There's stuff all over the place. In my professional life, before coming to the United States, I always had great secretaries. Very important for me. They kept me organized. Okay, my wife does not want to be my secretary. I don't blame her. Okay, so there's different strategies we can look at. We can look at competitive strategies. Some people look at being cost leadership. What do they mean cost leadership? At the lowest cost through technology, logistics, but just reducing the cost. And when I worked in Japan, there was a word called Kaizen. Kaizen. It's the philosophy of continuous improvement. In Japan, everybody says nothing is ever perfect. So we always have to work to make it better. I've heard very often people say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's not the Japanese way. To make it better, you can always make the system better to lower your cost. We can look at differentiation strategy. We can specialize in the feature, service, creative, innovation, marketing, sales, product differentiation. What makes me unique? If I can have a very unique strategy, a very unique positioning, try to do it. Look at the different pizzas that are out there. Papa John's, what do they talk about? They talk about their ingredients. What does pizza, whatever they're called? I think they talk about cost. Okay, different strategies. And then we can look at a focus strategy. We're going to focus on a specific market. We're going to really target just dietetic foods, for example. Everything we have is going to be 0 calories, blah, 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 and we're going to be in that. Whatever the case may be, okay? I'm going to skip this slide. Now we're going to go on something I want to call icons. What do we mean by icons? Okay? Icons are 5 areas we've got to look at. What is the industry we're involved in? What is the industry we're doing? It could be a service industry, it could be a technology industry, it can be a physical industry, okay, making food. What are my capabilities? All of a sudden, this guy who makes these pillows, I can't remember what it's called, My Pillow, I think it is. He was on TV the other day, everybody's criticizing him. I really didn't see him on TV. But now he has the capability of sewing and doing what else. He says, okay, I'm going to make face masks. Tons of them. He has the capability. He's not in that industry. He makes pillows, crying out loud. But who's buying pillows today? Nobody. So if he can make face masks, why not? What's my organization? What do I have? Do I really have the manpower, the woman power, whatever the case may be? Do I have the structure to be able to address that? In the case of the pillow gentleman, yes, he has. Okay? Novelty. Am I coming up with something new, something different? Right now, nothing new is coming out at this moment in time, but you can be sure when this crisis is over, people are going to come up with new technology. Does anybody remember the BlackBerry? We used to call it a crackberry because everybody's addicted to the BlackBerry, the crackberry. Who has them today? Nobody. Why? Because iPhones basically ate their lunch. And now all of a sudden you have Samsung and you got these Chinese products. Samsung has a really great camera and different systems, and the Chinese products are very cheap. And then we have society. Basically, is the way society is evolving. Take YouTube as a way of communication. We can take the concerns that exist today about the environment, etc. These are issues that address. So what we're doing today, the goal is to win as a company, as an individual. But you may want to compete or cooperate with your competitors. Okay, it's a choice. How are you going to do it? So we need to have a goal of a sustainable strategy to maximize our profits. Why do I say that? Because we could get into a strategy of I want to have the biggest market share, so I'm going to cut my prices. And will I cut my price, my competitor will cut their price, and I'll cut and they'll cut, and I cut and they cut, and we all end up gone broke, basically. Take the airline industry. Well, I don't know about today, but before this issue, prices to fly different locations have gotten quite cheap. So our airlines, were they making a tremendous amount of money? Not really. They were going through some difficult times. So there's a lot of competition, and they're trying to compete on price. Okay? And so they got a bit of a problem. So the core concept, what do we have to look at in these icons? We've got to look at the industry dynamic. And within that industry, whatever industry we're going to be in, be it the insurance companies, be it in pizza restaurants, be it in selling books, be it in any service, any type of thing, what are my capabilities of the company? What am I better at? What is my competitive position? And then within the company, we have to say, what can I keep inside? What do I contract out? I don't know if you guys watch Shark Tank. I've seen it once in a while, but more than once in a while. And very often they talk about, oh, you're making it here in the States. Well, why don't you ship it to China and have it made there? Contract it out. Well, now we're going to pay the price of doing that, but that's not the point. But even within that, there are certain things that are just not that good. You're not good at. For example, your accounting and your personnel, your HR function. A lot of that people contract it out. Why? That's really not something I'm very good at. If I can hire somebody to do it for me, I'll do it better. What is my market platform design and structure? In other words, how am I going to be able to communicate and position myself within the market so I'm able somehow to get that AIDA that we talked about before? A for attention, awareness. AIDA, E is for interest. We want to get into the consumer's mind and tell them something of interest that they'll be hopefully have some interest in. Desire, we want them to want our product. And then A, action, AIDA. Once they say they buy the product, we also want to retain them. We always know there's going to be new competitors out there. And somebody copies you. In a way, it's something you should be proud of. Oh, you're so good, they want to copy you. On the other hand, I'm out there. We're going to have industry disruptions out there happening right now across every single industry. But across the board, when Walmart started, stores had a problem. And then along came Amazon, and everybody's got a problem. And when Amazon bought Whole Foods, the supermarkets kind of started trembling. And then there's the impact of larger term trends. Take, for example, organic foods. Take, for example, now everybody has this issue, oh, I can't eat wheat. Why? Well, because wheat's not good for me. I can't remember the intolerance, but I'm intolerant towards gluten-free products, as a for example, okay? So we need to understand our business, and we have to understand it very well. And there's 6 C's. Number 1 C we have to look at is the consumer. We have to understand what the consumer wants, where they're going, who are we appealing to within that consumer frame? What is the category we're in? Are we in the low fat category? Are we in the gluten-free category? Where are we within that category? What is our customer channel? How are we getting our product or services from us to the consumer? If we're dealing in a service, how do we let people know that this service is available? How do we let people know that we're selling this kind of insurance, that we're selling this kind of joy, whatever the case may be? You ever look at Facebook? Facebook, in a way, it's a service. You go on there, it's a lot of fun. I mean, clearly, there's a couple billion people on Facebook. What happened to MySpace? Really not around too much anymore, right? And that has to do with competition. When you talk about competition, you need to know, how do we stack up against competition And that's why Michael Porter talks about competitive strategies. We need to know what competition is doing. We need to know our company. The SWOT analysis. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my threats? What are my opportunities? And ultimately, the climate. And I'm not talking about the temperature and the weather. Today, the weather looks absolutely beautiful outside, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the business climate. We're talking about the political climate. And today, when we finally come out of this quarantine or stay-at-home process and COVID has gone away, we're going to deal with a very, very, very difficult economic climate. So all this is going to lead us to looking at our SWOT analysis, our strengths and opportunities, and our weaknesses and threats. And here's what we have to say. Where our strengths line up with the opportunities, I have a great opportunity for growth. Okay, so we have to figure out what are our strengths or opportunities. My guess going forward, I don't know what industry you're in, but to me, people are going to be looking for value. Not necessarily the cheapest thing, but the best value. And they're going to really be looking at that soon. There's going to be a lot of unemployment, and a lot of people are going to see their portfolios, their 401ks have collapsed. So all of a sudden, what the heck am I going to do to retire? I'm 10 years away from retirement. I got a problem. I'm 30 years from retirement. I got plenty of time. So we've got to look at the weaknesses and the threats. What are my company's weaknesses, and what threats are out there? And these two areas are aligned. There we got a huge barrier for growth. If our weaknesses, for example, let's say we're in a very high-end environment, we're selling very expensive products, and right now the threats of a downturn in the economy, we're going to have to really tighten our belt, okay? Now, there's a lot of words here. You can look at it later on, but I'm talking about key elements of a business plan. The reason you want a business plan, you got to write it down and have it, because in the future, you may want to get a small business guaranteed loan. You may need investors. You're going to need a plan. These are all the elements in the plan. Very briefly, the last thing you write is executive summary, because there's a summary of everything below. You want to let people know your vision, your mission. You want to let people know the background. What's my competitive, my SWOT analysis, my marketing objectives, my organizational objectives and challenges, operations, my manufacturing, my development of products, sales and distribution, legal, and my financial. You can look at that later on. So basically, what I want to do right now is, first of all, thank you for attending this webinar. I really appreciate it. Our next webinar will be this Friday, 1 hour earlier than usual. The reason I say that is because most of our last webinars have been at 5. We're going to continue at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Topic next week is going to be a very simple, straightforward topic. It's going to be about liquidity and funding. The government of Florida, state of Florida, is offering tremendous incentives for companies for their bridge loans. The SBA has good incentives, and there are other programs out there that we need to look at. How are we going to fund ourselves going forward? We'll be addressing that. Then next week, we'll be speaking about other areas that we're still going to go on. We're going to have 3 more webinars next week. A video of this webinar will be tomorrow. I'm going to do my best to get it out tonight. I really don't know. It's all a question of how quickly I can download it. And the questions, if you have any questions, please send me an email. My email address is rbull.rotary, miamirotary@gmail.com. My Facebook, you can look there for Robert Bull, or you can look at my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/VespaFinancial. Or I'm also on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. Look at Facebook. There's a short URL.at/DGMT. So we're about ready to wrap it up. And there's only one thing I still want to do. Let me see if I can get it done right now. There we are. I want to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you very much. I hope to see you Friday. If I don't see you Friday, I hope to see you next week. And if not then, we'll just figure this out. Okay? You can always watch my videos. They're on YouTube. And plus, I'll be sending out a link. I'll send out this, a recording of this video and a link to all of our other videos that we have right now, the recordings. Okay? So listen, thank you so much for being on this webinar. I really appreciate it very much. I look forward to seeing you. And right now, all I got to do is say goodbye. Sayonara. Please be healthy, take care of your family, take care of yourself. And we're now going to say goodbye. Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon. Bye bye.